All right, everyone. Well, I'd like to thank you once again for being here, being a part of this family service. I definitely want to thank myself, all of the kids that I had served here, because I had some excellent, willing kids that were able to step up and do some jobs, and I'm incredibly thankful for that, and it's just awesome. I want to explain a little bit of my philosophy behind that, because it is very awesome to see these kids up here and being happy and jumping around or singing or serving. It's all very good, and I love it. These are great things. But it's about more than just them being up front and having fun to me. It's about having an opportunity for them to serve in church, about us being a congregation that can help support them as they grow up in this Christian body, to have a place where they fit in, and have us being a congregation that supports that and helps feed them and give them opportunities to serve and grow. So this is an awesome day. I'm super excited. I get to preach, which is fun as well. This will be my debut sermon here at Snellville Christian Church. I am Aaron Mawfo. I'm the family minister. I'm often in class working with kids. Some of you might just know me as the handsome face that performs the announcements weekly, and that's okay. I'm excited to be here. Today, I get the privilege of talking about the birth of Jesus and the implications that has for us. And it's an awesome time, it's an awesome season. Excellent to be here. And we had it introduced earlier by some of my middle schoolers and high schoolers doing a skit. The skit wasn't meant to be anything too profound or mind-blowing, but it did have a certain power to it, in that in it we had Derek playing Greg the Grouch, an individual who was not, he's raising his hand back there, who was not on board with the Christmas spirit. And we also had an overly excited individual who is not very far from her actual character to be the excitable Mindy Lou Who, and got to share that story with Greg the Grouch. It happened in a very simplistic way, in that he immediately turned, and I'm not sure if it always works like that, but there is something very powerful about sharing the Word of God and sharing the opportunity to just talk about this birth of Jesus. And in that skit, it was a situation where he just got to hear the light. And so I want to be able to share that story as well with us today. And it might be the first time that you've heard it, or it might be the 1,000th time that you've heard it. But I just want to continue to emphasize and have us gather around the story of Jesus this morning. My main text will be from John chapter 1. If you are interested in turning there, you can start now. We have Bibles in the pews. If any of you don't have a Bible of your own and would like one, we have these available for you guys to take home with you today. We want everybody to have a copy of the Word of God so that they can take it home and use it, because that's a very powerful thing. And so I'm going to be reading from John chapter 1, and I chose him because he's slightly different from the other Gospels. The first three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they do a really good job of describing what happens at the time that Jesus was born, describing the manger scene. And you guys have heard the story, so it's Mary and Joseph traveling to Bethlehem. They get there, and there's no room in the inn, so they're forced to go to a manger. There are shepherds, there are wise men coming, there are camels. We've heard the story, and that's how the first three Gospels really do describe it. Now, John, he takes a different approach. He isn't so interested in telling you how it all happened. He's more interested in telling you, what does the birth of Jesus mean to us? And that's kind of going to be my guiding question this morning as I continue on with my sermon, asking that question, what is it that the birth of Jesus, what are those implications? What do they have on me? And how has that affected us? And so if you guys will read with me, starting in John chapter 9, starting in verse 1, it reads, "The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, though the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him, and he cried out, saying, 'This is the one I spoke about when I said, He who comes after me who has surpassed me, because he was before me. Out of this fullness we have all received grace in place of grace already given. Now, that verse 14 is like the center of what I'm going to be talking about this morning. The Word became flesh and dwelt with us. That one line is the essence of the Christmas story, and it has the power to blow your mind if we're really sitting and focusing on it this morning. And all right, so I work with kids, and I love it. I've got an excitable personality, and I try and use that to get the kids on board with me. And one of the awesome things about young children is that it's very easy for them to just like be awestruck at like something new or something that's happening to them. For example, a couple of weeks ago we were doing David and Goliath, and as an object lesson for the sermon, I brought in a bucket of rocks. And I gave a rock to the kids as a tangible thing that they can hold on to for the promises of God. But I wish that you could have seen these kids' faces whenever I handed them a bunch of rocks. Because, like, after I pepped it up and then I showed them this bucket of rocks, they were like, wow, it's rocks! Like, I want one! Ooh, mine's bigger! Ooh, this one's shiny! This one's a funny shape! And it was just so awesome to see them just, like, interacting with each other and, like, picking these rocks and almost fighting over them at times. But in reality, like, it was just a rock. Like, I picked them off the ground the night before. So nothing very special there, but it's just it's so cool to see the wonder in a child's eyes. An example from my own life would be every year, a couple weeks before Christmas would happen, it would be my mom's duty to get the family to go up into the attic and bring down the Christmas the Christmas decorations. And so it was like a yearly thing, and whenever I was really young, I wasn't allowed to help. Well, I would help by standing at the bottom of the ladder, and my dad and brother would go up and bring the presents down and down and down, and I would just have to take them down to the living room. Again, I said presents, decorations. So I couldn't ever go up into the attic, and I really, really wanted to. And my mom kept saying things like, no, you can't go up there. You'll hurt yourself. There's nails coming out of the ceiling. If you don't step on the right boards, you'll fall through. There's an exposed fan out there that'll cut you to pieces. And like the whole time, I'm like, man, it sounds awesome up there. like I want to do this. So come the year that I was finally old enough and I got to go up into the attic with my father, and again, every like 30 seconds, my dad's like, now make sure you're staying really low because there are exposed nails. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm Spider-Man crawling over the boards, and I'm looking at, and I'm seeing things that I haven't seen for like in months. Like, there's the Halloween decorations over there. Here's Christmas. Is that my old baby stuff? What's in there? Like, so I go up there the first time, and just like the attic is a land of wonder, a land of opportunity. There's so many things around, and my dad's trying to like hand me things like, here, take this down. I'm like, wait, but what's over here? I want this. So I can remember just being in an experience where it's just like that attic was an awesome place of wonder and excitement. Now, over the years, that changed. Over the years, the attic went from like a land of wonder to a land of slavery, where I was where that haul box after box down the ladder over and over and over again. So I think wonder is an interesting thing, because wonder is often fleeting. And I think that the same is true about the way that we can view stories that we've heard over and over again, like the Bible story, like the story of Jesus being born in a manger. And it's not that you understand the Bible story, the story of Jesus' birth completely, or it's not that it's lost any of its actual power. It's more just that, like, we've heard it over and over again. We've been saturated by it in church, on the radio, story times, song times. Like, we've heard the story of this baby being born over and over again, to a point where I think for a lot of us, we've just kind of lost our wonder. And it's my drive for us this morning to try and reconnect with the wonder of Christmas. So I want us older individuals to try and take suit from the younger ones, as they can just be so filled up with wonder and joy and excitement about things. I want us to see if we can reconnect with that wonder of Christmas. All right, so I've seen a lot of these lists before, and they're funny, and I just want to share them this morning as we talk about the Christmas story. A list of word paradoxes. Like, I've gotten them in emails or maybe seen them on Facebook, but two words that seemingly should not be put together, but we place together in everyday circumstance. For example, there's plastic glasses, like is it plastic or is it glass? Or sanitary waste, like what is that? You can't have sanitary waste. Like if you actually think about the words, like it doesn't make sense, but we use them all the time. Another one might be tight slacks, like is it tight, is it slack? Or here's one that might apply, like female logic, like do this. Or for the other side of the room, adult male, like I don't. Silly examples, but word paradoxes are something that the story of Jesus being born is chock full of. There's virgin birth. There are kneeling kings. There are chosen shepherds. Shepherds weren't chosen for anything. There's Christ child. There's God and man, all meshed up into one. These word paradoxes that this Bible story is just completely full of. One coined phrase that kind of describes this that I've heard said before is divinity in diapers. The story of Jesus being born is an idea of somebody who's fully God being this little baby. I've got a quote that I really like from an author, Max Lucado, who you may have heard of. And he says that in the manger scene, we have the light of the world squinting. And that just, it sums up the paradox of it all so interestingly, because Jesus is God, the God who created light, the God who put the stars in the sky to begin with, and he is the light. And now he's being born as this little infant who is squinting under the light of the stars that he put in the sky. It's an amazing paradox that I think is something that can be filled with awe and wonder if we actually think about it. One of the most poignant things about this divinity in diapers, about this particular paradox, is that Jesus was born under the most humble circumstances imaginable. The most humble circumstances. God set aside his divine powers. He set aside who he was in order to be born of this little babe. It's just, the humility of it all is something that's amazing. And the reason is that his goal was not to glorify himself in that sense, but to come to earth to lift others up. And so in this story, we've got this little baby emptying himself of his divinity, his powers, while still remaining God, in order to come and empty himself of him and serve us. I want to let the wonder of that settle in for a little bit, because again, I feel like it's something that we're oversaturated with, but just the wonder of this situation. That verse was in verse 14 of John chapter 1. The Word became flesh and dwelt with us. The Greek there is the Word became flesh and tabernacled, which is a word that means moved in, set up camp, lived beside. The Message translation, which is a paraphrase version of the Bible, translates it as the Word became flesh and then moved into the neighborhood with us. That's the story of Jesus' birth. And it's so important because in this world, we don't just need God. We need God with us, Emmanuel. That term Emmanuel is one that comes up often during Christmas time as we sing songs, but it's a word that means God with us. And that has so many implications of itself. It's God with us, a man who came to this earth, who is familiar with what it is that we have experienced on a daily basis, who's familiar with sorrows and sufferings, who knows what it is that we've gone through. I've got another verse that should be on the screen if you guys can follow along with. It's from Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14 through 18. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, so that by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all of their lives were held in slavery by the fear of death. For surely it is not angels he helps, but Abraham's descendants. For this reason, he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of his people. Because he himself suffered and was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted as well. This is not just God. This is Emmanuel. This is a God with us, somebody who's been here in the flesh and faced what it is that we face. There isn't a thing that God has gone through that there isn't something that we've gone through that God hasn't also experienced. He experienced hunger. He experienced fear, loneliness, grief, betrayal, injustice. Jesus suffered it all in an effort to be closer to us. So if you think about that, no matter what it is that we might be facing right now, because we have this Emmanuel, God with us, he's experienced it as well. And what we get to take from that is that he's somebody that's so approachable, and I just want to continue to run to him. I want to be drawn to him. I want to chase after, and I want you guys to do that as well. Because of what God has done, because of he's experienced what you've experienced, I want you to run to him. Now, I feel like some of us might have pushback whenever I say that, and I want to be able to clarify, because I'm telling you to run towards God. That's like it's a pretty churchy thing to say. So let me elaborate on it a little bit more. Maybe you've been an individual who you've had a preacher or some teacher tell you to run towards God, to pursue him, and you have. You've went out and you've read what you needed to read. You sought out the counsel of older, wiser individuals. You tried to focus on having a relationship with God. And then in the midst of it all, you started praying, and you prayed that God could, and earnestly, with all of your heart, started praying that God could take you from some of the hard situations that you've been in, and some of the things that you're currently experiencing, and you've just asked him and pleaded with him. And in the past, God has answered with no, or he hasn't answered at all. And you still face that suffering, you still face that persecution. Maybe that's a situation that you've been in. The idea of Jesus being Emmanuel, God with us, is that he's experienced that as well. The story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane before he went to be crucified was a very heartfelt plea from Jesus saying, God, if you can just take this cup from me, if there is anything that I can do alternatively in order to serve you, God, please let that happen. And as Jesus himself humbly and sincerely prayed this prayer to God, he was met with the loving answer from heaven, no. Jesus understands. Jesus has been there and experienced all of that with us in all things, in all circumstances, because of this story starting out with Jesus being born as a babe and being here with us. He understands. I've got one more verse for us that's going to be on the screen as well. It comes from 1 Timothy chapter 1, and it talks about the reason that Jesus is here, why he was born. And here Timothy opens up with a statement that is, this is true, this is absolutely true, I want you to listen to what I'm saying. And so I think it's interesting that he opens up that way. Verse 15, here is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. That's a verse that has so much power and talks so fervently about the reason for Christmas. What we're celebrating is the fact that this God has come to save us. The fact that God is here and present, and the gift of hope has been given through the form of Jesus. And I talk about gifts. Gifts are something that's very common around this time. We give gifts, we receive gifts, and it's an awesome thing. And to clarify some things about gifts are something that's given, not earned. And as I talk about what it is that Jesus has done for us, it's something that's given, not earned. It's not like a paycheck. Imagine a situation where your boss at work comes up to you like with paycheck in hand, and he's like, here you go, this is a gift for you. Like you'd be like, thanks? Because a paycheck isn't a gift. A paycheck is something that you've earned. It's something that you worked for. You were hired, you did the job, you put in the hours. It's rightfully yours because you worked for it. That's what a paycheck is. A gift isn't wages. This gift that God has granted to us is something that's not wages. It's freely given. Now, part of the nature of a gift is that we have the option whether or not to receive it. We have the option to say no to this particular gift of hope. And that's a path that some individuals choose. But the choice is there, and it's given by God, this gift of hope, and we get to choose what we're going to do. Christmas is about that gift, celebrating it, just gathering around it and being just filled with hope and wonder because of everything that God has done for us, starting with this manger scene. So in it we have just this Word becoming flesh, dwelling among us, and that is a gift of hope that we've all been given and received. And as I think about that, I want to be filled with wonder, more so than I even am right now. I want to challenge us all to look at that from that perspective and be filled with wonder, because it's such an awesome thing. Now, Christmas messages, they come once a year. Sometimes they can be stretched out in longer sermon series. And here's some insider information. I feel like sometimes preachers might struggle or stress out about Christmas messages. I do a little bit. Because it's like you've heard it all before. Year after year, we talk about the birth of Jesus. And it's a very important thing, but it's like we have to figure out some new and exciting way in order to impress you or wow you or get you that wonder sense back because, you've heard it. And, maybe that's why I'm preaching this Sunday, because Jonathan, didn't want to have to come up with a message to think, like, what's a new way that I can do it? I don't think that that's really the case, but here I am, like, posed with the choice. Okay, how am I gonna relay this message? And I've heard it from so many different perspectives. Like, have you guys heard the story of Jesus' birth, like from Mary's perspective, or Joseph's perspective, or the wise men? Last year, actually, I had this lesson with my youngest kids, and I read a book, and it was from the perspective of a camel in the manger. So I'm well-versed on all of the different perspectives, and I think that you guys are too. You've probably heard different angles given. Well, I feel like if I'm going to take a perspective this morning, it's going to be the most basic and simple one that I don't want to be overlooked. I want to briefly touch on the perspective of the birth of Jesus and what it means from God's point of view. And it's simple. It's this. Perspective of the birth of Jesus from God's point of view is to us, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. It's you may or may not love me, but I love you. You have sinned and separated myself from you, but I love you. You have been in this world and you are doing good or bad, and no matter what, I love you, I love you, I love you. That is the story of Christmas. That is the story of Jesus' birth from God's perspective, him showing us his undeniable love. And with that, I think that it's such a powerful, simple, really simple concept, but something that's so powerful if we believe it, if we can wrap our heads around it. Again, like, this whole thing is paradoxical in nature, and that it's big, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, this idea of a God and a man and the virgin birth and these things going together. It's a big mystery and a paradox. But I want that to be able to fuel the wonder of it all, something that, maybe we don't get to understand it all. Maybe we don't get to have the full and complete picture of everything, but we've been given a very large glimpse as to what it is that God wants for us and what it is that God viewed in that story. And that story is God's perspective of I love you. There might be 1,000 angles and perspectives out there, but I don't want to miss that obvious one. So this morning, can we think a little bit about being filled with awe, being wonderstruck, like a little kid a couple of weeks ago getting to see a rock, or me up in an attic filled with a land of adventure. Maybe not that silly or that, big, but the sense of awe and wonder, I want it to be something that we can feel and sense with the story. If you've settled for anything less than the story of Jesus being present here and being our Savior and God telling us that he loves us, then I don't want us to settle for anything less than that. If Christmas is about this birth of this God child. Christmas is about Jesus saving us. It's about Emmanuel, God being here present with us. And there are a lot of other things that go into Christmas season. There are presents, there are vacation days, there are bonuses at work, there are maybe some big family dinners and get-togethers. All of those things are great. I hope you get them all. But I don't want us to settle for anything less than the story of Jesus being born and God telling us that he loves us. So this morning, if you feel like the shock and awe is gone, then I just want to pray that through the grace of God, through the power of the Holy Spirit, that you can get that sense either for the first time or rekindle it, that we can be in awe and wonder of what God has done for us every day, especially because of the scene of Christmas. All right. And to kind of wrap things up, I've got 3 challenges that I want to kind of put on you as an application as to where you can go from here. So with my 3 challenges, the first one is this, and I'm going to be singling out individuals, not singling out, like it's not your challenge, it's a broader than that. The first one is for parents who have kids that are, especially parents with kids who are younger, still at home. This is a challenge that I have for you. And it's that I want you to be able to share or kindle this wonder, share this wonder of God and what he's done for you with your family in some way this Christmas season. I think that it's very easy to get caught up in just the presents or the tree or the dinners. And I want to challenge families to make an effort to share the real reason with kids. And that might look like a prayer time on Christmas. It might look like sitting around the Christmas tree and singing worship songs. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I want it to be something that's intentional that families can do together, because that's a real heart of mine. I'm the family minister here, and I want to try and connect students to God as much as possible. And the best tool that I have in my arsenal is parents' cooperation, parents being on board and being able to support that as well. And so I want to challenge you guys to do something this year to connect your children with the awe and wonder of what you believe in, of your faith in Jesus and what he's done for us this Christmas. All right, challenge number 1. Challenge number 2 is for any students that I might have in here. And again, it doesn't have to specifically to apply to you, but I've got you here, so you had to expect something from me. My challenge to you guys is to think about your attitudes during Christmas season. I know that I was very guilty when I was younger of making the Christmas season a lot about me and what I wanted or what I got and receiving things, and I put a lot of that there that just didn't need to be present. So I want to challenge you students, I see a lot of you are in back there, got some spread out, to think about your attitude this Christmas, and not just being an individual that's all about wants and what you can get this Christmas season, but being about giving as well. I've been challenging the church for the last couple of weeks with the teddy bear and blanket drive, and I'm very happy to say that at last count, we had collected 182 blankets and bears. So that was awesome. So I can feel a sense of giving in that action right there, and that's great. And that those things were to benefit the Gwinnett Co-op and Snellville Police Department, and I'm super excited that you guys were able to collect that. But I want to continue to challenge you in that area. As Christmas comes, don't make it all about receiving. Make it about giving and being. And this morning was one of my big challenges to you. Like, you guys served and you guys did some awesome things, and I thank you for that. One of the mottos that we have at Snellville Christian Church is to be an individual that loves people and love God. And I want you to be able to adopt that in your life as well. All right. My third and final challenge is this, and it's to everybody. It's to just don't let the wonder of what Jesus has done for you fade. Try your hardest not to let the wonder of what Jesus has done on the cross, of what his birth means, the implications there, don't let that fade. Regardless of how often you've heard it or how repetitious it may sound whenever somebody talks to you about Jesus, try and hold on to that wonder and that amazement and that awe, because God's done it all for us. All right. If you guys happen to have a decision to make this morning, one thing that we do at the end of our church services is we want to offer a time as we sing, as my singers get up, an opportunity for anybody to come forward, and if you're interested in getting baptized, or if you want somebody to talk to, if you want me to pray for you about a commitment or a decision, or if you're interested in partnering with us here at Snellville Christian Church and becoming a member of this community that we have, this is the opportunity that we have laid out for you. And it's just this Christmas season where, as we're singing, I want anybody to feel, who might feel led or comfortable with coming up, then I'm here to talk with you. But I'm just so excited to share this story with you. And again, I close with this emphasis of don't let the wonder of Christmas and what Jesus has done for you fade. All right. Will you guys stand with me as we sing?